Hey, welcome to the Kinda Sleepy Podcast. I'm your host, Knowledge, and who do I have to my left?
Miss EP, the voice of reason.
So you're the voice of reason today?
Today. I feel like being the voice of reason today.
So what's going on every other time that you come in this motherfucker?
I think it's energy. My energy is in a different space, and today I feel pretty good.
So I guess I did not piss you off before we walked in the door, huh?
No, you didn't. I told you didn't.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
If you had, I would have said you did.
You probably would have and or punched me in the face, so it's okay.
I wouldn't have punched you in the face.
You wouldn't have. You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
You're a sweetheart, so I know you wouldn't do that. Who do I got sitting across from me?
What's up, y'all? It's B Wood again.
You're back.
Blessed to be back.
You might as well just go on and just have a permanent seat here, man.
Hey,
Guess who's
look,
back?
when the offer is extended, I am open to everything. So
Got you. Natty might be here this time. Not sure. No. He had a client. He did tell me he had a client at like 5, I think. So I don't know if he's done or not, but if he comes in, you definitely know it. So let's jump right into it. This first story is I hate saying this kid's name, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Teriyaki69. I don't know. Are you guys familiar?
Is it teriyaki? It's not teriyaki.
No, it's Tekashi.
Okay, I thought I was tripping.
it might as well be.
I can't keep up with children's names.
So Tamagotchi42. Are y'all familiar with his music?
Not really. I'm not.
I mean, I've listened to some of it. Actually, some of it I do like. Like he has a couple songs where it's on my gym playlist. Cause I mean, just he's kind of got this alternative, hardcore, loud. Like he's not your deep, philosophical hip hop. He's more that bouncing in the club type hip hop, right?
Give me a song I may know.
You won't. Oh well, that song he got with Nicki Minaj. Got that Fifi, got that wet.
Draco and
yeah,
I like that one. Okay.
He's also got the blicky with the sticky.
Yeah, Gummo.
Okay.
Niggas, if we get the stiffy that beat comes in so hard though. You put that on in your headphones and you're in the gym. You lifting the whole gym. Now you may get a hernia afterwards, but for those 2 seconds, you are the strongest motherfucker in the gym. I'm just trying to let you know. But no, he got locked up recently on a conspiracy charge. He got a Fed charge like that. This is like a RICO charge with him and his blood set, the 9 straight gangster bloods. And he got arrested shortly after he did his last interview with the Breakfast Club. So, allhiphop.com is reporting. We found out that he got initially sent to he got moved from where he was in one jail to another jail, but apparently, according to allhiphop.com. The reason he got moved was because as soon as he came to jail, the Crips G-checked him. So now, first of all, you go into jail and you are a pretty face young man with a big 6'9" tattooed over your eye. And you have pink and purple hair.
Let's define pretty faced, because.
Well, when I say pretty faced, I mean you like what? This kid's like what, 21, maybe.
Okay.
We'll call him Babyface.
Yeah, babyface young man.
Fair enough.
With 69 tattooed on your face, and you got pink and purple hair.
What's the 6'9" for?
Who knows?
Okay.
But you still got 69 tattooed on your face in prison. That sounds like advertising to me.
I would have had to get a little black dot just put over it.
You gonna eat your cornbread.
Like it's big. It's like on his forehead. Like
I would have had a big black dot on my forehead.
Well, you didn't
I wasn't going to prison with 69.
Well, he didn't have a chance to do anything like that. Like right when he left the Breakfast Club, apparently he was gonna he went on the Breakfast Club and said how he was firing his whole crew. His manager Shotty was part of the set with him, and apparently the feds had been listening to them for a while. And according to them, they heard them say that they was gonna super violate Tekashi.
Yeah, I would have slid my face across the sidewalk. Before I went to jail with 69.
Or a belt sander or something.
Something.
You know what I'm saying?
Something.
Like, you just can't go to jail with 69 on your face. Like, It's certain things you just shouldn't have in jail. Like, you shouldn't be a man with a tramp stamp in jail.
Nope.
No.
You can't be a man with a navel tattoo in jail.
No.
I don't care what
no.
Because
you can't be a man with a navel tattoo in life.
All right, Cisco would beg to differ. All right. Unleash the dragon. Pause. All right, Cisco would beg to differ. Just so y'all know. That thong, Cisco better never go to jail.
Yes,
he better never go to jail. First of all, like Cisco's smaller than me, and I'm not a big guy by any stretch of the imagination. But you go to jail and they know you for having platinum blonde hair.
Have you seen the meme where it's like, I thought this was Fantasia, and it's Cisco?
Oh God.
Have you seen it?
No. Did you see the one that said Floyd Mayweather got way too much money to be dressing like Mary J. Blige?
That's sad. It came from my soul. I can't.
But it's the truth. Floyd Mayweather was at the fight last night dressed like one extra from Newsies. Like
I thought he looked like a character from Fat Albert.
Hey.
I thought he took the American Gangster like really seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
you are not Frank Lucas, sir.
No.
he was trying.
He failed. We'll get to the fight.
The outfit wasn't that bad. It was the hat for me.
It was the fact that it was him wearing it also.
Yeah, he kind of
with that struggle beard.
It was a little clownish, just a little bit.
That struggle beard. That beard was so disrespectful. Let's move on just a little bit. Speaking of other entertainers who we enjoy laughing at, so city of Oakland, Oakland, California is one of my favorite places of all time. It's a historical city full of a rich tradition and legacy of resistance. I'm going to need Oakland to resist the shit out of going to this Lauryn Hill concert that she has planned for New Year's, okay? So this is called... So on her 20th anniversary tour, which I don't think she's actually completed like a date to anybody's satisfaction at this point. It's on December 31st. And they're calling it a special New Year's Eve Bay Area performance of the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It's supposed to be Monday, December 31st, 2018 at the Fox Theater starting at 9 p.m. I'm just going to let y'all know that Lauryn Hill will not arrive until 2019. And that's December 31st, 2019. Not January 1st, 2019. Just FYI. I'm going to need the city of Oakland to resist this. Lauryn Hill think we stupid.
She has to. I mean, at this point, what are we doing? I mean, good people of Oakland, let me just save you time and aggravation. Whatever money you planned on spending on those tickets, just take it in one hand, get a lighter, and let it go. Because you might as well just set that money on fire.
Let me tell you how much the tickets are, though. Like $150.
Then you just deserve whatever you get.
Well, I'm sorry. Let me correct myself. The tickets range from $99.50 to $149.50.
That's still too much.
If Lauryn Hill was performing and being respectful of our fandom and the songs were recognizable, I would gladly pay $100, $150, maybe even more to see Lauryn Hill perform this 20th anniversary tour. Gladly. I would easily pull that out. I would take it out of my kids' college fund if I didn't have it. Okay? But with Lauryn Hill having a consistent track record of not showing up, she got booed recently in like Belgium or something because she showed up like 4 hours late and only performed for 32 minutes. And they couldn't even recognize the songs.
Does she still have it? Like, you know,
I don't think so.
I'm thinking back like, you know, early 2000s Lauryn Hill, Fugees Lauryn Hill.
Right.
That was a different person.
Right.
I think back to, and then when you go to Dave Chappelle Block Party, the movie that came out, you know, she was struggling through the song that she was singing there, and I was like,
it's your song.
That's your song. Like, that song made your career. You can barely remember the words, having to repeat the lyric. Like, what are you doing?
I think it's spiteful. I think her performance, I think every performance that she does now is done out of spite.
What she got to be spiteful for?
Think about
because break that down. I want to hear it. I've never heard that.
Okay, so you know she can't perform the songs the way they were originally recorded.
Yeah.
So I think for her it's okay. Well, they didn't want old Lauryn. I got to redo all my stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna BS through it.
It's not that here's the thing. Why do we have to be punished for your poor decisions?
I think that's part of it. Like her personality gives me those vibes. I could see that that's her way of thinking. She gives very little effort. She could care less, and hey, is what you get. So be it.
So I went back and listened to the Miseducation actually last week in preparation for having this conversation, and I listened to it now, and with the benefit of hindsight and age, and everything that we now know about Lauryn Hill, that album was one long sermon in hypocrisy.
Really?
All right,
I'm gonna need you to break that down.
Right. I'm over here. Like,
All right.
wow.
All right.
okay.
So let's go like this. Baby girl, respect is just the minimum. That line right there, most hypocritical line in the whole thing. Because if you listen to that whole song, doo-wop, it's about self-respect. It's respectability politics on steroids to a certain extent. But she's talking to sisters about respecting themselves, right? Meanwhile, she's sleeping with Wyclef, knowing he's married. Meanwhile, you out here jerking your artists and your musicians. And that's why you can't perform these songs now, 20-something years later. Meanwhile, your baby daddy for your kids, who was married at one point when you was dealing with him, the stuff you was preaching to women, you didn't practice. And you telling us to respect ourselves, but you don't respect us enough to give us even anything decent to even show up on time. I feel like it's one long episode of hypocrisy.
Well, I think she gave the people what they could relate to, which was also the truth. Because if you think about it, that whole entire album, she was kind of going through like this teacher and student type of dialogue. And each song was like an answer to a question that he asked prior to the song playing.
But when you go back and you, with the benefit of all of the interviews that we have now with Wyclef, with Praz, even with Lauryn from that time period, knowing that basically the entire album was about her relationship with Wyclef, and he's a married man.
I mean, but
preaching all this, and while I understand
the whole album wasn't positive. I mean, she had, when it hurts so bad, why does it feel so good?
And
Tell him I
it.
love him, all that good
and
stuff.
I get it, but you're still singing to a married man, and then you turning around and telling women to, handle themselves in such a way. You can't preach. You can't preach from a place of piety when you're living, as a, as something else. Like, it's the same criticism we have for a lot of preachers and people in church. I never expected Lauryn Hill to be perfect. I never want a perfect person to even give me these sorts of life lessons that we got. And so I'm not saying this in judgment of Lauryn Hill. What I'm saying is that I feel like, yes, the album is one long exercise in hypocrisy, but also I feel like it was an aspirational album from who she was. Like, this is who I want to be. This is not who I am.
I think that's I won't say every. I think that's majority of hip hop albums that exist.
And I will agree with that, because you hear these guys rapping about this, that, and the third, and all this other stuff that they know they ain't got, with their rented jewelry on, and all these stereotypical things. That's why I do like artists like Fonte. That's why I do like artists like J. Cole, because it's much more real to me. Like, Fonte rapped about having a Honda Accord. Yeah, you got a Honda, just rap about it. That's why I like D1. D1 had a song called I Just Paid Off Sally Mae. That was my favorite song for like a strong 30 days. That was my favorite song of all time.
It's very relatable.
Well, that's aspirational to me. I was proud of that young man for that experience that he had. That's why I like Big Crit. And we gonna talk about Mississippi. We about to talk about Mississippi.
I know I started off and I said that I was going to be the voice of reason today. Let's scratch that now ahead of time. I apologize. Maybe she'll show up next week.
So let's start off with, so you guys had an election recently. And before we get to the outcome of the election, let's talk about Claudia Bivens. Claudia Bivens went to vote. Claudia Bivens is a black woman, and she's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Claudia Bivens went to vote holding a Confederate flag. And then after she voted, she went and laid that Confederate flag on the grave of a civil rights warrior. So initially, like, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, if this ain't the most disrespectful, ridiculous, self-hating thing, like, that's my initial thought. Because whenever I see a black person proudly displaying the Confederate flag, I'm like, Loaded Lux should rap a whole verse to you right now calling you a lost nigga. Like, I just feel that in my soul, right? But I had to read the article because I don't like to be one of those people with a knee-jerk reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what she said. So it was a field trip with her 7-year-old grandson. She had a noose with her as well. I did not see that at first. She said she brought the noose to symbolize the past lynching of her ancestors. The flag was to represent the heavy burden of racism that still exists on her shoulders today. She said, it still weighs me down. The flag represents racism, slavery, and affliction. She was part of the first integrated class in her high school, saying that one of the lessons she shared was that she wouldn't have been allowed to attend the school he attends now when she was his age. After voting, she took him to a place that she frequents, the grave of Vernon Dahmer, a civil rights activist killed by the Ku Klux Klan for organizing voter registration for African Americans. She said she would visit his grave on election day. She said they went this time and laid the Confederate flag over his grave and placed olive branches and peppermint on it. She said the olive branches symbolized the champion that Dahmer was, and the peppermint represents healing. She said, as I laid the rebel flag down across Vernon's grave, I told my grandson what it represents. I hope that racism and hatred would die, that it would be killed at the root of our hearts, minds, and soul. I wasn't even mad. At that point, I couldn't be mad at her. While I would have chosen a different vehicle and a different way to express that, how can you be mad at that?
I don't think you can be mad at it. Like you said, I think that the initial reaction is getting over that knee jerk kind of what is going on.
Right.
And if you don't go further and, explore the reason. So if I'm just somebody on the street and I'm witnessing this, then, I'm feeling a certain type of way, and I'm, it might cause some, sort of disruption.
Right.
But without knowing the context behind, that's all without knowing the context. But once you explain the context, I don't think you can really be mad. Now, there, like you said, there may have been another way to
express
that lesson or to teach that lesson that I might have chosen. But I definitely give her a shout out for making a bold statement.
I can appreciate where she's coming from. I don't agree with her placing the items at his gravesite.
That's the only thing I think I took issue with.
Yeah.
Her thought process, yeah. I did not take issue with. Her leaving him there at his gravesite, I felt was disrespectful.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think that the reason she chose to do it was in part because of the nature of the race that was going on between Mike Espy and that evil heifer's Confederate Cindy. Who took a picture in a Confederate uniform, like hat, holding a rifle, and was saying something like, "This is the best of history" or something like that. What was it? What did she say? Like, she's nuts. And said that if one of her friends invited her to a public hanging, she would be there. Like, it was crazy. And she actually ended up winning that election in Mississippi to be elected to Senate. I find it interesting that Mississippi, I think, if I'm not mistaken, has one of the highest percentages of black people per capita, in our states. And it seems as though there's always a way to have the state gerrymandered in such a way that black people find themselves locked out, disenfranchised, and their voice is counting for less. We've seen the same thing in my home state of Alabama as well. At what point do the good, well-meaning white folk that Martin Luther King said that he was most disappointed in, the white moderate, say, hey, this is wrong? At what point does that happen? Do you guys think it will ever happen?
It happens when it starts to affect them. That's when you start to see change. So if you kind of look at the sort of dynamics of what's been happening with a lot of the racial gerrymandering, specifically in the state that we're in now, it's really started to make an impact. What you've got is, basically a lot of, I think the Democrats won North Carolina by a wide margin in terms of total number of votes, but they only picked up about 10 seats in the House, the Democrat in the state house legislature. So, you kind of got to look at that and say, well, what's going on? And the answer is that these districts have been so gerrymandered that it's virtually impossible to break that. Now, we could talk about why that's been, but basically the Democrats fell asleep at the wheel and the Republicans basically said, look, this is what we're doing. They were very vocal about their strategy in that they are going out to gerrymander these districts to keep power. And what has transpired is what you see now. Right. Now I think what they're starting to understand, or what's starting to come around, is that the Democrats or the like you said, the well-meaning white folk are starting to be impacted by that, especially when you look at some of the nonsense that's come out of the North Carolina state legislature over the past few years. And we don't have to revisit that history, but the key thing to understand is that they will never do anything until it directly impacts them. And I think that they're really starting to feel some of that impact. So what you're going to see over probably the next few years is hopefully a shift back. Now the question is, do they have the balls and the guts to actually do what needs to be done? So a lot of people say, well, we need to, make it fair, and we need to, kind of put things on a level playing field. I'm not necessarily of that opinion, especially when you consider the state of the white nationalist party. I'm of the opinion that, we need to adopt the same type of strategy that they did and move things back to the left. That's not a popular point of view, but my thing is win at all cost. And the Democrats and the liberals, or whoever you want to subscribe to that ideology, doesn't necessarily think that way. They're all about taking the high road. When they go low, we go high, and I'm done with that nonsense. It's about winning.
Right. And I've always said that, and I think we've had this discussion before, not on the air. I said Democrats don't know how to win.
No,
they don't know how to. They don't know how to win. They don't know how to wield power, and they don't know how to effectively counter in a fight. I think that they're thinking that politics is civil discourse and civil engagement, and the Republicans are playing like it's watching a boxing match or watching a football game.
It's a game. It's a game for them.
They're fighting, and I said you got to stop bringing flowers to a fist fight.
Right.
You can't bring a knife to a gunfight. You shouldn't bring flowers to a fist fight. And I feel like that's what's happening far too often with Democrats. And we've talked about this on the show too. I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I like to vote for who the best candidate is, but I also don't like standing next to Nazis when I'm supporting somebody. Mm-hmm. So by default, a lot of times I have to default towards the Democratic side of the aisle. Speaking of people who have kind of shown us to a certain extent that Democrats don't know how to win, and we've disagreed on this. Nancy Pelosi, she's Speaker of the House, right?
Yes.
She's become Speaker of the House again.
Yep. Well, I don't know if she's become Speaker of the House. She's up for a vote in the House.
And she's going to win.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yes.
She's going to win. And I'm sitting here like, I don't think she needs to be Speaker of the House. But you had a very good reason as to why she should be Speaker of the House.
Right. So just to recap that idea, the thing about Nancy Pelosi is that a lot of people villainize her as the face of the Democratic Party, and they think that she's some kind of evil magnate behind the curtain, sort of moving the puppet strings.
I don't think she's any of that.
Right.
Just to clarify, like with the listeners, I personally don't think she's any of that.
Right. But let's also understand who she really is within the context of the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi raises more money for the Democratic Party than any other member of the House. Mm-hmm. And where the money goes is where the power goes. Also consider the fact that Nancy Pelosi is in a very reliably blue state, mm-hmm. and in a very reliably blue district within that state. So there's very little chance that she cedes that power to a Republican challenger. So she's pretty much locked in. Also consider the fact, and this is the thing that people I think are very short-sighted on, is that she's incredibly effective at what she does as the leader of the House. She is one of the best legislators that we've probably seen in modern political history. Without Nancy Pelosi, we would not have the Affordable Care Act. And that's just flat out. She is the reason why that legislation was passed. Now, people will argue that, it's not bad, or it's not good, or it's not working, whatever. The fact of the matter is that the bill that they actually put forward was one that was actually more progressive, that had the things that a lot of people are asking for and demanding, but it was revamped in the Senate. The Republican or it was revamped in the Senate to appease that legislative body. So let's just understand that she's not the villain that people make her out to be. Now, as far as her election to Speaker of the House, you have to consider that she's, again, like I said, she's in a reliably blue state and a reliably blue district. It doesn't make sense to eat your young, in terms of from the Democrats. It doesn't make sense to you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. She is, like I said, incredibly effective. I think that she has the wherewithal to deal with to bring the party together within the legislature, and whoever you get to replace her, if you came up with someone to replace her, and the problem that the Democrats have, they don't have any viable challengers at this point to replace her. But even if you do replace her, they're just gonna the other side is just gonna villainize that person the same way they've done her. So why not let her take the load for the party and be the villain, and it keeps a lot of those Democratic seats that are in some of those states that flipped from Trump, or where you had more centrist Democrat, or more progressive Democrats running that were successful.
Here's my thing. I understand all that. Completely get all that. I still think that the current crop of leadership at the top of the Democratic Party just has to go. I think that they should be respected. I think we should appreciate their efforts. I think that if they were really about the advancement of the agenda, that they would still work from wherever they are and serve as a soldier, and not just say we need to be leaders. I think Nancy Pelosi needs to step aside and let somebody else lead. I don't think that she has the wherewithal to fight the way that the fight needs to be had.
So to that point, I think what will happen is that she's going to end up being this is going to be a transitional leadership for her.
We hope.
But what the sense that I get, and from listening to some of the pundits out there and doing some reading, is that I think what the plan is for her to take control of the House for some set period of time, to be able to bring along someone to fill in behind her as Speaker of the House, and then hopefully she'll step aside. I don't think that this is going to be a long-term deal for her. I think it's basically just an attempt to stabilize the party within the chamber, to get allow some of these newer congressmen to get their footing, and hopefully for new leadership to emerge out of that crop to then take the next step.
Well, speaking of that, Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York is now your new Democratic caucus leader for the Congressional Black Caucus.
Shout out to you.
And Karen Bass of California is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Next year, I'm trying to go to CBC weekend just so I can kick it. I really do want to go to a couple parties and just be a fancy Negro for a day or two.
I'm ready. I'm down to roll. Let's get a road trip.
Let's go to DC and be fancy.
We got a place to stay.
Yeah, I just want to spend time around the highfalutin, sedated, cuddled folks.
See how you acting? See?
But see, this is why you the voice of reason.
She said not today.
I'm still stuck on Mississippi. I'm sorry. I'm still there.
Well, that's home.
No, I mean it's tough.
I can imagine.
I mean, and not to backtrack at all, in any shape, form, or fashion. But I know that we got Donkey of the Day. The whole state.
The whole state did get Donkey of the Day.
The whole entire state got Donkey.
But Charlamagne deserves Donkey of the Day for what he said about Tekashi 6ix9ine. But he said that if Tekashi 6ix9ine beat these charges, that he would perform a certain sex act on him.
Huh?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Huh?
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, he said that if Tekashi 6ix9ine beat his charges, his federal charges, that he would give Tekashi 6ix9ine some mouth loving.
No, I get that he's saying that there's no way at all that he'll beat the charges, but
as a
what
grown
man makes that statement?
I don't. Yeah, it was so random and wild. I was just like, dude, now he's known for saying some outlandish stuff, but that one I was just like, okay, well.
Well, I do have a little bit of a comment that I have to leave with the people. It's been on my heart, and I couldn't wait for us to talk about it today. With giving the entire state Donkey of the Day, with a lot of the comments that I've read about Mississippi, even my own disappointment with the state and voters and her still being elected. For people who are not from Mississippi, there's a certain type of atmosphere, environment, certain culture that is the norm in Mississippi. It is completely understood that you are tolerated in a lot of places. Your presence isn't necessarily wanted a lot of times, but it's the law. It is what it is, and you're not forced to leave somewhere. You may be left to feel uncomfortable to where you may not want to be in that space anymore. But it's a known thing that blacks and whites are separate but not equal. That's just it. Her comment about public hanging. Yeah, public hangings were part of the legal system at some point, but given the history of Mississippi and the amount of African-American people that were lynched, it was very insensitive. But what white person is obligated to be sensitive towards African-American feelings? Nobody. The other part about that is I follow this lady on Facebook. Her name is Crystal Tucker. She's a musician, performer, entertainer. Her name is Red Velvet. It's her entertainer name. But she made a Facebook Live post, and she was talking about people that feel sorry for Mississippi. And she said, don't feel sorry for people in Mississippi. You can't feel sorry for people in Mississippi because at least Mississippi knows what to expect. Unfortunately, it's the norm. It's not something that's new. It's not something where police brutality is so shocking. Someone making a statement about a public hanging is something that just, tears your world apart. It's the norm. You know what to expect. You know how to address it. We adjust and move around it accordingly. But there are so many other cities and so many other states that have issues that are 10 times as worse, if you want to compare, aside from having someone that's your representative say something as insensitive as making a comment about attending a public hanging. You have places that students don't have water to drink. People in the city they don't even have, a drinking water that's acceptable in Detroit. They don't have heating in certain schools in different cities. I think in Memphis is what she referenced. So many other places that have issues. How many people have been murdered after being, activists after
We're
Mike
getting to
Brown
that.
was killed,
We're
right?
getting to that.
But I'm just saying, how many other cities have so many more issues that we need to, as a whole, address and look at and be, not to say more concerned with, but just as concerned with? If you're going to give Mississippi Donkey of the Day, then the entire country needs Donkey of the Day. You can't focus on Mississippi. I think we as African Americans a lot of times get distracted and we're able to point out one little aspect and say, oh man, look at that, ha ha ha, that's just awful, it's a shame. No, our existence in America and things that we accept to a certain extent is a shame. But that's just my agreement with her.
And that segment was brought to you by the Voice of Reason.
That was a point very reasonably made.
Yeah. I ain't got shit else to add.
I mean, we got issues as a whole everywhere. I mean, we can't just look and say, oh man, Mississippi let this lady get elected. I mean, that's not an issue. I mean, people are racist all the time, everywhere.
Now, let me tell you,
Well,
coming from Alabama, I know we got issues.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're dealing with some issues right now. But for this 24 hours, we ain't got not damn issue. You know why? Because Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship. And Deontay Wilder is still the champ, whether he deserves to be or not, after that fight.
Yeah, that's a little
It's a
iffy.
little shaky, but
I support him all day.
yeah,
I'm
no,
for him all
I'm
day.
a Bronze Bomber fan. But
I was a little disappointed. I think he was outsmarted in strategy.
somebody said he won the fight and lost the boxing match.
Yeah, I can see that. I can agree.
you can't beat the Undertaker.
Yeah, that dude sat straight the hell up. I was like, and people was like, that was the longest 8 count I ever seen in my life. No, it ain't. Shut up.
Then it was a
Stop
meme
lying.
that said he got up faster than Lazarus.
Yeah, somebody said he got a fast and I was like, wow.
He did. That was, yeah.
Yeah, he got straight the hell up though. I was like, yeah, that dude really did outbox Wilder. Like Wilder really did get exposed in that one. And I had a bet with Country. He's been on the show before. Me and Country bet a bottle of Jack. I was like, so how does this work with a draw? Like we both buy each other a bottle of Jack and then we sit there and drink it in front of each other. Like how does this work?
No, you go get a bottle and you split the cost half and half and then you share it.
Nah, you push to the rematch.
That works.
The
Double up.
Yeah, double or nothing.
Double up. So Country, if you're listening, you hear that. That's 2 bottles for the next fight.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just while we're on the subject of Alabama, shout out to Jalen Hurts.
Yo,
Shout out.
Jalen Hurts said he prepared a table for me in the presence of my enemies.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not an Alabama fan by any means, but
He said my pocket runneth over.
but I am a sports fan, and
His story, man.
I mean it's crazy, especially when you consider. Kind of in our area, what's been going on, the incident, what happened earlier in the year with Clemson, them getting rid of their starting quarterback. Shout out to Kelly Bryant, come to North Carolina. Shameless plug, but
he wants to win, sir.
we can win. We got Mac Brown. We gonna dust off the wishbone. It's gonna be all right,
Sir.
but.
Sir.
But no, shout out to Jalen Hurts. That was just an amazing performance. Straight, Rudy style storybook ending.
Dude,
it was the perfect conclusion to that game.
Yeah, I lost my mind. We was at the house watching the game, and she knew I lost my mind. I was hanging up a picture.
Yes.
And I couldn't. I kept turning around to look at the TV. And when he scored, I lost. I did shed one tear.
You did just one.
I shed that one Denzel tear from Glory.
Oh gosh.
And then I went immediately and went to YouTube and listened to What More Can I Say by Jay-Z.
Really?
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you're here? Spaniard. So hey, that's
Are you done?
no.
Okay. Let you have that one.
Just Thomas for the money.
It's never been a nigga that's good for this long. I'm trying to tell you, that song's the perfect song for that moment. But yeah, Jalen Hurts. I am getting a Jalen Hurts jersey.
I did too.
I am getting 2 Jalen Hurts jerseys. But I'm also getting a Tua Tagovailoa jersey as well because I'm a fan of his as well. So I mean, they're both amazing athletes. Oh, and my homeboy's ex-wife put on on Facebook. If your man ain't as loyal as Jalen Hurts, he trash. Leave him, sis.
I'm with her when she's right.
Leave him, sis. If your man ain't loyal as Jalen, leave him.
Wow.
Which one is worse? Well, not which one is worse. Are you okay with sis or suh?
I don't know the difference.
I'm saying, which one do you think is more acceptable? Sis? Yeah, suh kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I didn't even know suh was a thing.
What is it, like sus or suh? Some people spell it SUH.
Only
or
suh
SUS.
only suh I acknowledge is indomitable.
Wow.
Next,
All right.
What's the next topic?
The next topic.
Can't ask black people nothing.
Speaking of sis, not Deontay, but Dwight Howard.
No.
Wow.
No.
Ooh.
Is that really how we're going to transition?
Wow.
Why not?
We might as well. Go ahead. Go ahead. Put it out there.
Dwight Howard has been accused of violence and threats from Miseducation, who's a man claiming to be Dwight Howard's ex-lover, claimed that Dwight was threatening to... Well, Dwight's pastor, apparently, who has threatened to beat him up and do all sorts of harm to him, said that Dwight was engaging in unprotected sex at transsexual sex parties, and all sorts of random stuff. And the jokes just kept flying because Dwight Howard has been sitting out the last couple of games with a sore buttocks.
Did they say why?
Apparently, he has to now have surgery on his buttocks.
But what? I mean,
We don't know. Like he has
you can have a
he has
you have a butt
gluteus
muscle,
maximus issue.
right? You can have a muscle issue.
And I have a coworker who I was talking to about this, and I walked off from the conversation because her response made me want to call HR when that surgery came up. I'm not going to repeat it.
Well, you were having a conversation at work.
We were talking about Dwight Howard's issues because we were talking about basketball at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, well, he's got to have surgery on his butt. And her response, about certain things having to be sewn back together, made me want to call HR. But instead, I just went to my desk and cried for like 30 seconds.
Did you hold yourself tight?
I did. I did.
That's when you come home and take the Silkwood shower, just huddled up in the corner, letting the water just run over.
Cleanse yourself.
And in the background, you hear, everybody hurts. You know what I'm saying?
So I saw where some people were saying, well, there was an article about it.
I do
and
think
it
it's a
said
hoax.
that it was false.
I think she was. I think. Well, the Messine LJ said that his pronoun is he. Mm-hmm. He's a man, and he did try to out Playboy Cardi, the rapper, earlier this year. If y'all don't know Playboy Cardi, in New York, I Millie Rock, had it in my sock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that kid. So did try to out him earlier, but the text messages that he posted were found to be doctored. So I mean, I don't know the reality of this.
So is it accurate that
Would you just call that boy Massengill?
What's his name? What's the baby name?
Masson LJ?
What did he actually release the messages, or did someone else
There are
do it?
screenshots and video caps of these.
Well, I know they said it
messages.
wasn't true, but I'm saying, did he actually do it, or did
Yeah,
someone
he
else
did it.
do it and say that they were him?
This dude did it.
Oh, okay, he did.
Yeah, this is all him. Like, I'm looking at a tweet right now that says, I was afraid to speak, but today my life was threatened after I was sexually harassed, threatened, and manipulated by someone I respected. My ex-boyfriend, NBA player Dwight Howard, and his camp, also catfished by his disrespectful ass pastor. So, yeah, that's...
But I have questions about the very last statement. Can you say it again?
Also catfished by his disrespectful ass pastor.
Forget.
I don't know
I need to
nothing
know
else about that.
I need to know what that's about.
Apparently, the guy wanted to get Mr. LJ to sign an NDA, and when Mr. LJ refused to sign an NDA, he then threatened him as somebody who works for Dwight Howard, but he's also apparently a pastor. That's all I know. So
the public service announcement here is: be careful of the company you keep.
Yeah.
And black people just stop being messy.
Right. Just like my thing is, if Dwight Howard is gay, who cares? I mean, Dwight Howard has not been an impactful NBA player in 15 years now. And even if he was an impactful NBA player, who cares?
I'm sorry. There's not one person on the planet that, take that back. Majority of the people on the planet, it does not affect me in any shape, form, or fashion who they decide to sleep with. At all. At all. Why does it matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I'll never forget the response I had to somebody when they told me they came out to me. They told me they were gay. I said, "Oh, okay." They was like, "You don't have any questions?" No. I said, "One of my line brothers like fat girls."
You know what?
That just means we have different tastes than people we like to sleep with. And that was my actual response, because I was trying to trivialize the whole thing, because I don't care who you sleep with.
It doesn't matter.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, ain't nothing wrong with big women. I'm not fat shaming anybody or saying that there's something wrong with bigger women. Mm-hmm. All I was saying is that, like, that was his preference. His line name was Shallow Hal. I mean, let's be honest.
Y'all didn't have to do that to him.
Let's not even talk about the line names.
Okay, I'm just saying. But anyway, I mean, but let's also consider the fact that, within our community, there is the stigma.
Okay, so let's talk about that right for a second. I have said on this show and a couple of different times that black people treat gay people how we say white people treat black people.
True.
I agree. Totally agree.
We only accept them when we can use them for something. The pastor will sit up there and use all sorts of homophobic and derogatory terms for gay people. Like the choir directors are supposed to be quiet and sit there and take it.
Right. So
same thing. It's kind of like saying, oh, like when somebody says, oh, I mean, yeah, you're black, but you're not like them. People use people when they benefit them and hate them in theory.
Right. But, we need to, and this is the thing that bothers me, is that it should, like you said, it shouldn't matter. Right. It really shouldn't matter. And we have this stigma, and it's the thing that we're trying to do to otherize people, right? We put them in that other category. What we need to realize as a community, and I don't want to get too preachy here, but what we need to realize is that our struggle is everybody else's struggle. It's the exact same. We try to say, oh, well, my struggle isn't the same as a woman's struggle, or their struggle. Our struggle is harder. It's kind of like, if you're in a who pledged harder?
Yeah, we do the oppression Olympics sometimes.
Right? And that's just not necessary. But what I do think we need to realize, and what we need to respect, is that if I go down, what's to stop, or if you go down, what's to stop them from coming after me next? So we need to sort of share in each other's burden and try to work to overcome some of these stigmas and these walls that we put up in our society or in our culture, to say, hey, well, I don't really mess with them over there because their struggle isn't the same as mine. Like, no, the struggle is the same.
Here's my thing. And this is something that we've had Vic on the show before. He's the one that wrote the book, The Code, a blueprint for achieving solidarity among reasonable black people. We've talked about this. I don't think that I'm not interested in saving all black people.
No.
I said I'm not interested in saving all black, because not all black people can be saved. That thought process, though, does not extend to, I don't think that it has nothing to do with your sexual orientation. And that's my biggest thing there. Certain people that I do not think need to be saved are folks like Reuben Foster and Kareem Hunt, who we're going to talk about next. Now, I'm not saying, here's my thing. Before I continue, I'm not going to sit here and villainize these guys. Okay? Their actions do that for them. Okay? What they both did was despicable. I think that, and we've talked about this on the show. I said that I don't hit women. I wasn't raised to hit women. the only time I think that you are even justified is if you are actually being threatened and in danger. And that's at that point it's self-preservation. I think the domestic violence is deplorable, abhorrent, and all the other negative adjectives in the world. Reuben Foster, he's a Bama, product of Bama. And I mean, come on, dog. Like, this is his second time on some domestic violence. Like, the first time the girl said she lied and the charges got dropped. This time the charges aren't being dropped. This is his second one in 8 months. The gun charge he got along with the first one in California, where he shouldn't even thought about having a gun in California. Not that type of gun, rather, in California. That one got knocked down to a misdemeanor. But now he's got a charge where he says that she slapped a phone out of her hand, pushed her in the chest area, and then slapped her with an open hand on the right side of her face. 7 months ago, in February, he attacked his girlfriend. He got charged 7 months ago, where he attacked his girlfriend, and it left her with a ruptured eardrum. And when she recanted her story, the charges were dismissed. So clearly, this guy has an issue with it. He was just picked up by the Redskins last week, but he has not played and may not play until certain things get figured out, I guess. So, and then coming on the heels of that whole situation, Kareem Hunt. Now, one thing I appreciate about Kareem Hunt is that he did admit today. He said that he was in the wrong during an incident in which he shoved and kicked a woman, in the hallway of his house. He said it was a long night. To be exact, it don't really matter what happened. I was in the wrong. I could have took responsibility and made the right decision to find a way to de-escalate the situation. And then he said if he got a chance to speak to her again, he would say that I am sorry for my actions. I can respect that. The Chiefs did cut him on Friday. I really can respect that. I can appreciate him saying he was wrong. But the best apology is change behavior. And so if he ends up doing this a couple more times, I think he will get picked up by another team. I don't think this incident was as bad as the Ray Rice incident. The optics look bad, but I think some other team will pick him up. Yeah. But the thing is about that, and we're going to talk about this next too, these guys are going to have jobs, and all Colin Kaepernick did was take a knee.
So that's where I wanted to go with this is, I'm not going to sit here and justify their actions. Their actions were terrible. Yes, you can respect the fact that Kareem Hunt took responsibility. Completely get that. That's fine. But let's peel back the layers of the onion a bit on these two stories and kind of show some of the hypocrisy that exists within organized sports, and especially at the highest level at the NFL. So Kareem Hunt goes out, has his charge come against him, and gets cut by the 49ers. Before the ink on the papers releasing him was even dry, the Redskins pick him up.
Yeah.
Knowing that this was out there. So what makes you think that that's okay? Like what standard are we living by? In the same vein, the whole thing with Kareem Hunt actually happened earlier in the year, much earlier in the year, and the Chiefs knew about it, and the video never came public until this past week. Now they're in this rush, and now they've cut him. So it was all good just a week ago.
Yeah.
When nobody knew that this footage was out there. They knew that the incident happened, but they just kind of dismissed it. But now that the video has come out, now is all of a sudden an issue? Why wasn't it an issue when you knew way back when that
it's never an issue until it starts costing you money and negative publicity?
Right. And to your point about Kaepernick is that all he did was take a knee. These people are out here physically assaulting people, allegedly, physically assaulting people, women, for that matter, which makes it makes it worse. But but you're gonna co-sign those actions because maybe it was just a bad day, whatever your reason. I can't even come up with a reason that makes sense.
Right.
But you've got this guy who decides to speak up and take a stand on an issue to try to raise awareness, and you end up making the issue about something completely different that has nothing to do with what the original intent was, and you end up icing him out of his career. That is why I will not spend money on the NFL.
Oh yeah, no, I'm done.
Point blank period. I will not spend any additional any more of my additional dollars on tickets. My favorite team came to town this year to play. That only happens once every
blue moon.
And I said, I'm not going to the game, and these are the reasons why.
And so, speaking of the punishments that our players receive for using their voice, Eric Reed, who knelt with Kaepernick, was randomly drug tested for the 5th time last week since getting back in the league on September 27th.
"Quote unquote."
So,
random.
in less than 2 months, the league has drug tested him 5 times. And the thing is, these are supposed to be random drug tests that happen all over the league. But you drug test somebody one person 5 times in 2 months.
Man, that's hella
Is he
random.
on probation?
I would go myself. I would go myself on a regular basis.
That's hella random.
It sounds like they trying to be his parole officer.
No, but I would go on a regular basis to show that consistently I have no need to have a drug test, and the fact that you continuously ask me to take them after I'd make it public. I'd take a drug test every week on my own.
I would voluntarily take myself to lab court.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
and release the results. And so therefore, when they continuously ask you to go take random drug tests, it's like, okay, what's the point?
I just started taking random paternity tests too, just because.
Hey.
All right, let's move right along.
Well, wait a minute. Let me just put a quick tag on. Let me just put a quick tag on that point before we move on. This has happened. This has happened before. It continues to happen. And with someone who, is in athletics, Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Who we would consider to be the model of, athletic integrity in her sport of tennis. She gets drug tested, quote unquote,
more
I'm
than
doing air
anybody
quotes, randomly than any other player on tour.
It's crazy.
And I wonder why that is. But I'm gonna just let that sit there.
The same reason that people assumed that all of the rich black entertainers are in the Illuminati.
Okay, well, not to say that I agree with it, but to me, I can at least understand an argument that someone could make to say, hey, well, Serena's like the greatest, so we randomly drug test her.
That argument's trash.
No, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying if you made that argument, I would disagree, but I would say, okay, I see the little sorry point you're trying to make to reason as to why you're doing it. But Eric, I don't really see.
Yeah, but that's punitive.
I know. But
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Moving quite along, Eric Reed's being punished by taking drug tests. Apparently, activism comes with a price in this country. We all know that. We've seen that time and again. And a lot of times that price is your life. So there's another Ferguson activist. This is the 4th one in 4 years that has died. Bassem Masri. I don't know if I said this right, but he's a Muslim Palestinian American civil rights activist. He had a heart attack, and he was fairly instrumental. He live streamed the 2014 protests in Ferguson. All I'm gonna say about that is something in the milk ain't clean. Some fishy going on. Some definitely is in the water. I don't get it.
Was he actually still in Ferguson?
I believe so. I do believe so. I believe he was.
Yeah.
This is not a coincidence.
These incidents aren't random. There's something going on. I liken it to the Jamal Khashoggi killing. They try to claim like, oh well, he's just missing and then come to find out this dude was cut up into little pieces.
So apparently Mashry was intending to run for a Missouri state representative position. Rachel Prouty, who I used to know personally, she was recently elected to state representative in Missouri for the city of Ferguson. So I mean, there's a groundswell of support for these homegrown activists, these people of color in that city, and I guess they're trying to cut the root. You got 2 suicides, a murder, and now a strange heart attack. And then there's another activist whose son was found allegedly. She's claiming that he was lynched. The police ruled it a suicide, but he was hanging from a makeshift noose in her front yard. Well, I'm not gonna say her front yard. I know which yard it was, the front yard or backyard.
I think it was the backyard.
But he was. Here's my biggest thing, and I hate to be stereotypical, okay? But outside of prison, I don't hear of black people hanging themselves.
No, it's one of those things that's the type of stuff that, and again, speaking stereotypically, we'll put the disclaimer out there. That's just not us.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are people who have mental health issues and
black people do commit suicide,
yes,
despite what we think in our community sometimes.
But
they do.
But hanging is not the.
It's not usually the way.
That's not it.
It's not the preferred choice.
So something. I mean, so something there doesn't smell right to me. Yeah, something's off.
Well, my thing is we're. I mean, it's made known of the deaths that have occurred of those that are associated in some shape, form, or fashion to the activists. But how many more that just aren't known, that we don't hear about, that have died under the same circumstances? That's the scary part.
I think that's something worth reviewing. I don't want to get too deep into that because I want to get to these next ones, because I think we're going to see a little bit more happen in the future. So
hold on real quick before you get to that. Speaking of hangings, and not to, I hate that that's the comparison to go into.
Speaking of hangings,
when you said outside of prison, black people don't normally, they're not found by suicide where they've hung themselves. There's I think it may be HBO. I could be wrong. Special Force Sandra Bland. They're making a movie or documentary about Sandra.
I did read that.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to it.
So that's a good transition to what we have next. 2 more black men have been killed by law enforcement. One was in Detroit, one was in Birmingham, which is my hometown. A Detroit man was killed by police. His name was Theodius Gray. He was shot by police multiple times after he fired a single shot with a pistol, which the pistol then jammed. This is according to the police. Somehow during the same altercation, a police K9 was shot. Gray was shot 6 times. So apparently this young man was at his baby shower. Somebody called the police and said that that they saw a man holding a rifle. His family said, he brought the rifle to the shower because he'd been receiving death threats. They found the rifle near the banquet hall. There were 70 people there allegedly. Surveillance footage is there. They've released that surveillance footage. They've released the initial call with the dispatcher, which seems to be placed by the owner of the place where the shower was being held. So officers then, the next footage shows that officers were chasing him. And we don't really know much else other than that. They just say that he fired a shot, the gun jammed, and they shot him 6 times. The video evidence is really kind of inconclusive. There are no other witnesses other than the police and the dog. And unless the dog is Lassie, we can't really just be able to tell what the dog says, because dogs don't speak English unless they're Lassie. So yeah, or Air Bud. Air Bud was a horrible movie, by the way. So there's another situation that happened.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Horrible commentary here. Just letting y'all know that. I'm exhausted, by the way, in case you guys haven't noticed.
Airbud. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So E.J. Bradford, Emantic Bradford Jr., was killed Thanksgiving night in Birmingham, Alabama. Well, Black Friday, I should say. It was Thanksgiving night, right during Black Friday shopping, because Black Friday now begins on Thanksgiving. I'm not going to go into the details of that shooting because we don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not going to give you guys hearsay because that's not fair to this young man's family, nor is it fair to his memory. Being from Birmingham, I've heard more than my fair share of stories. I do not care to repeat 97% of them. What we do know is that there was some sort of shooting that took place in the mall prior to Mr. Bradford being shot. One of his friends was shot in the torso, and an innocent bystander, a young 12-year-old girl, was hit in the back with a round. Shortly thereafter, Mr. Bradford is killed by police. I believe they did confirm that he was involved in the altercation where the shooting did take place, but he was not the shooter. The biggest problem I have with this whole story is how the story kept changing. So when he was killed, so there was a shooting. That shooting got reported. And then they said that the Hoover, the city of Hoover said that he was the shooter and that he had shot those two people. Then they said that he wasn't the shooter, but he had a gun. Then they said that he was brandishing a gun. So then people started asking for the clarification of the definition of brandishing. So then Hoover said, well, he wasn't brandishing the gun, but he was holding the gun. So there's a lot of different stories that are in and out and that are going on around this whole thing. They did protest outside of the mall where he was killed. They held a die-in inside the mall. They protested at the mayor's house. They literally went to his house and protested outside of his house. His funeral was yesterday on Saturday, December 1st. And Jesse Jackson was there and gave a eulogy. There were thousands of people in attendance. Birmingham has a history of activism. And there's a lot of stuff that went on around this one. And I don't really want to get into the details of it because I don't want to derail the focus of what we're talking about here. And that's two black men who have been killed at the hands of law enforcement. Whether they are justifiable or not, we don't know because we don't have the evidence of the Alabama. So the good thing I will say, the thing I can commend Hoover PD on in this case is that immediately after the shooting, they handed over the investigation to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. They took it out of their own hands. There turned out to be a conflict of interest there, and so the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department took it up a notch and sent it to the State Bureau of Investigation and the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, which I think in some of these cases should happen every time. Mm-hmm. So I can say that is a good thing. I hope that the full story is told, and that's in both of these cases, for Theodius Gray as well as Mr. Bradford Jr. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's pretty much all I can say about those. That's it. That's all we got. That's all the stories that we got today on the list. So, Missy P, you got anything you want to tell the people before we get out of here?
No, my usual protect your peace. No matter what that looks like, no matter what that feels like to other people.
And stop shitting on Mississippi.
I mean, we got a lot of work to do collectively.
As a nation.
People, right. So, we can't point the finger at Mississippi. Mississippi is just one of the places that I feel like you can visually see the roots of America on a consistent basis. Like, it's not hidden. It's not underground. It's in plain sight. And so it's a constant reminder of where we are. And we can't deny that.
Yeah. I think that Mississippi is a symptom of the problem and not the root of it. And I think that some people get that confused. We cannot start mistaking the fruit of the tree for the tree itself. Racism is the root. Racism is the tree. What we see in Mississippi is a symptom of said tree.
And there's a lot of symptoms.
There's a shit ton of symptoms we're looking at in this motherfucker. B Wood, Mr. Don't Let the Smooth Taste Fool You, your favorite DJ's favorite DJ.
Yes, sir. Basically, the normal. Protect your tribe.
Hey.
Look out for your people. I do want to give a shout out. Shout out to the Bruz. We got a little anniversary coming up on Tuesday, Ice Cold Tuesday. So I'm gonna just put that out there. Shout out to all my 06 Bruz. And that's about it.
I want to give a special shout out today, of all days, to the Kappa Alpha chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. It is our charter day. Because on 12/2/74 came forth to UA, the most prestigious KA chapter of A Phi.
Okay.
In case y'all was wondering. Yeah.
Alpha
Bama. And normally when I hear that, I would play our Alpha Bama anthem, Down for My Niggas. Because if you hear that, as soon as you hear them tubas, you getting off the dance floor.
Yeah.
Because we taking over.
I normally move.
Yeah, you was catching the wall. Like
to this day, if I hear it, I'm like looking around.
Anybody behind me?
Right.
That was for that damn whistle. Tired that damn whistle. But what I will say is that I don't think it's a coincidence that on Saturday night we won the SEC championship against Georgia. The University of Alabama did. And Deontay Wilder, maintained his status as champion. And then the next day, it's the charter day of a chapter of champions.
Oh, just champions everywhere.
Just champions all over the state, baby.
Okay.
I'm about to be sick.
No.
I just want to know what it's like to play a meaningful football game in the month of December.
We would like to know what it feels like to play a meaningful basketball game in March. Okay, how about that?
Fair enough.
We haven't done that since we was in school, like 03. Back when Antoine Petway did his thing. And Petway's now like coaching. Yeah, that's 15 years. Damn, I'm old.
I didn't know. Dang, I forgot just that quick. He's now coaching at Ole Miss.
He's at Ole Miss now?
No. I can't remember his name. He was a football player. Bama player. I had no
Oh,
clue.
Freddie Roach?
Yeah, I didn't know he was at Ole
He was at
Miss.
South Alabama first.
Oh.
Yeah. These guys we went to school with. So, yeah, it's just one of those things.
It's just good to see people, still doing stuff,
Doing their
good
passion.
things. Right.
Oh, speaking of which, shout out to the King family. Kenny King down there in Daphne and Strelitzia King. Love them. Shout out to them. That's the first family of football in Daphne, Alabama, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so Meek Mill released a album this past week. It was called Championships.
So that's part of it too.
I mean, it's just Champions Weekend, baby.
It's just a theme.
Yeah.
A theme show.
But my favorite track on this album is What's Free with Rick Ross and Jay-Z on it.
Oh.
And so that's the track we're going to use to catapult you through the rest of your week. Thank you guys for checking us out, and we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
You know what free is, nigga? What's free? Free is when nobody else can tell us what to be. Free is when the TV ain't controlling what we see. Told my niggas I need you. Through all the fame, I stay true. Pray my niggas stay free. Made a few mistakes, but this ain't where I wanna be. Before I'm judged by 12, put a 12 on my feet. Told my niggas I need you. Stay up, I know these times ain't true. Real life, what's
Just
free?
a lad I was cunning, just got a pad out in London. I keep stacking my money, I need a ladder by summer. 8K shots, niggas ducking straight shots. Been a top dog, that's before the K dots. Cracking in 06, immaculate showmanship. Talking like you Mitch, disastrous on the strip. Holding on your bitch, coulda never sold you a brick. With them people, you never been on the list. Mona Lisa to me ain't nothing but a bitch.
Bye-bye.